Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum class. I welcome you to English grade 6 video lessons. This is your instructor Zahmid. I hope that you're doing well. So my dear learners, as you know that we have covered our unit number 1 thoroughly, and now we are moving on to number 2 with the title Someone Who Understands. This will be our introductory lecture. Now let's see what we will cover, all the SLOs that we will cover in the upcoming lectures. But first, I hope that you have thoroughly read the lesson. Now let's take a quick overview of the lesson that we studied. So this chapter explores the concept of peaceful coexistence through the lens of peace education, focusing specifically on raising awareness about the challenges faced by differently abled people. It aims to foster understanding, empathy, and inclusive attitudes among readers, promoting a harmonious society where everyone, regardless of ability, can coexist peacefully. So, my dear learners, we have read the overview. We know that the lesson is about feeling and having empathy for others, and especially differently abled people. So now, after the overview, let's look at all the SLOs divided into different lectures that we will cover. So in lecture number 1A, we will be covering the topic of genders. So our students' learning outcome, or SLO, is sort the nouns by gender, that is masculine, feminine, and common. For example, baby, or neuter, for example, property. So in the very first lecture of our video lesson series of unit 2, we will be talking about first in lecture 1A about genders of nouns. So we know that we have masculine and feminine gender, also common genders and gender neutrals. So we know that masculine is used for male and feminine is for female, and also we have some common genders like baby or doctor, covering all the living things. And then when it comes to non-living things, we have neuter nouns like, for example, property. So in this lesson, we will be thoroughly seeing all the genders of nouns with examples. So moving on lecture number 1B with the topic of forming adjective. My dear learners, we have the students' learning outcome of form adjectives from nouns. So it's very simple. We will be forming adjectives from the nouns. So this will be very interesting and easy. Now let's move on with our lecture number 2. It's also divided in different parts. Here we have lecture number 2A with the topic use of apostrophe. So my dear learners, you are already familiar with apostrophe, the comma that we used to show some possession, or we also use it for showing contraction. So in this SLO, we will use apostrophe with nouns, singular, plural, ending with missing sounds, for example, Keats' poetry, boys' college, etc. So we will be seeing all these things in our lecture number 2A. Now moving on with lecture number 2B with the topic of use of present tense. So I hope, my dear learners, that you are familiar with tenses. In this lecture, we will be covering the students' learning outcome of recognize the form, functions, and use of simple present tense. So we will be seeing the use of simple present tense here. Now moving forward with lecture number 3 with the topic transitional devices, our students' learning outcome is explain functions of different conjunctions, transitional devices used for addition, for example, and, to, as well as, or sequence, for example, then, while, before, reason, for example, because, as, for. So we will be seeing functions of different conjunctions or transitional devices. We will be seeing them in addition sequence, and reason. So this will be our students learning outcome and the breakdown of it for lecture number 3. So moving on with lecture number 4 with the topic of vocabulary using dictionary. Our students learning outcome will be locate entry word to choose appropriate word definition to identify pronunciation of a word with the help of a pronunciation key. So now this is about vocabulary, and we will be seeing that how we can locate the entry word. Entry word is called the word that you can find the main word to which we are finding or looking for meanings or other things. So that is called the entry word, and we will be choosing appropriate word definition to identify pronunciation of a word through the help of pronunciation key. So we will learn all these things and these terminologies and how do we pronounce words correctly. Now, moving on with lecture 5, which is also divided in 2 parts. We have lecture 5A with the topic of wall digraphs. So our student learning outcome will be use familiar patterns such as digraphs, blends, and chunks and affixes in an unfamiliar word, mark vowel sounds to decode it and pronounce it correctly. So my dear learners, we will be looking at these things in our lecture 5A. Now let's move forward with lecture 5B, which is about summarizing the text. In this one, we will be covering the students' learning outcome, determine 2 or more main ideas of an informational text and explain how they are supported by key details, summarize the text. So summarizing is a very important skill. You can summarize any text, and we will be looking at this lecture thoroughly, in which we will identify the main idea, and also we will be looking at informational text, and we will explain how they are supported by key details, and hence we will summarize the text. Now, with lecture 5C, we will be seeing the topic of drawing conclusion from the text. Our students' learning outcome will be identify different points of view in stories or poems, draw conclusions, and make simple generalizations such as the moral of the story. So we know that in stories and poems we have different point of views, different narrations and kinds of narrations. So we will be looking at these different point of views in stories and poems, and we will draw conclusion and also make simple generalization, like if you're trying to find the moral of the story, so many other things. So we will be looking at these things in our lecture 5C. Now with our lecture 6, which is also divided in parts, lecture 6A is on the topic of making explicit meaning. So our student learning outcome will be ask and respond to a question with correct language making meaning explicit. So we know that there are implicit meanings and explicit meaning of any word. We will be looking at the explicit meaning, and we will ask and respond to question with correct language making meaning explicit. This will be very interesting lecture. I hope that you will enjoy this one. So lecture number 6B will be about writing narrative. This is about the competency of writing. Our students' learning outcome is write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective techniques, descriptive details, and clear event sequences. So in this one, we will be exploring the world of narrative writing. We will also see how we can use our description and how we can tell our experiences about anything or any event that has happened. and we will be using descriptive details, and we will be sequencing them in a logical flow or in a logical order. Now, with our lecture number 6C, again the topic is on writing. Write and spell constant blends. So the SLO is spell and write accurately using knowledge of phonic elements or words. So in this one we will be learning about how to spell and also using blends. Now at the end, these are all our lectures. Thank you for listening. I hope that we will have a great time with every lesson ahead that you will be seeing. This is your instructor Zia Hamid signing off. Allah Hafiz.